Morning, good day to everybody. Thank you for being here today. We have a very special webinar with Susan Jones about BPW partnerships. Susan Jones is a long-term member of BPW Australia Sydney Club. She holds many positions at the international and national level. She had been the chair of projects and vice president membership in the triennium 2014-2017. She's a very active member, and she's now I can say, the member who knows more about Project 5.0. And I'm glad also that Sylvia Perry is with us today, because she's the one who wrote the book about Project 5.0. I am asking the attendees if some of them read the book of Project 5.0. Maybe we can, in the future, have it in electronic as ebook, because it was a huge work that Sylvia did to as a compilation of what means Project 5.0. In BPW, I am being in the Congress, New Zealand, 1985, when BPW and the other 4 organizations decide to have this special partnership in favor of projects. Thank you very much to all of you for being here. Susan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. For me here, it's coming up to midnight. I don't know where you are in the world, but I know that you're all on very difficult times. My thanks to Anne and to Yasmin for asking me to present on this particular topic. And my thanks to all of you for coming online at such a difficult time for us all. But before I begin my presentation, I'd like to acknowledge the very recent passing of 2 of our international presidents, Pat Harrison and Johnchinook Virava, as we all know her as Nok. Pat and Nok were 2 very remarkable women who dedicated their life to service and to the advancement of women worldwide. I think that BPW has lost 2 of its wonderful treasures. My sincere condolences go to the family, friends, and loved ones. They will be greatly missed. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you. So the topic of the conversation tonight and the presentation is partnering with other women's network organizations. It's a particular topic that is close to my heart because of the involvement that I've had, especially with BPW and Project 5.0. I'm delighted to say that I've seen firsthand how many of our affiliates have worked hand in hand with other women's organizations. And today I'm going to give a brief overview of several of the current partnerships that we have. So let's start. Let's start by looking at some of the partners that we have that you're all probably familiar with. There are others, but today I'd like to focus on one which I consider to be a wonderful example of BBW partnering with other women's networks, one that I have worked with for over 2 decades. Our international president, Catherine Bossart's triennium theme is New Actions Through Cooperation, and I hope that this presentation further highlights the importance of cooperation. As you can see, I've included UN Women, the Global Compact, International Trade Center, Global Summit of Women, and Women in Water. There are others, but today I only want to mention those briefly. Each one deserves a full session, and perhaps Anne and Yasmin, you may consider that in the future. BBW's collaboration with UN Women. UN Women includes, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Many of our members have worked with the SDGs, women's empowerment principles. My own club is focusing on the WEPs, in fact, and I know that BBW Australia is involved, and certainly BBW New Zealand is very, very strongly involved and collaborating with the women, with the women's empowerment principles, and using that as a platform to bring in and cooperate with the other women's organisations in New Zealand. Of course, there's ongoing collaboration through the UN Women with CEDAW and the Beijing Declaration of Platform. And within the UN system, it's mandated to lead, promote and coordinate efforts to advance the full realisation of women's rights and opportunity. I've also included the International Trade Center, the ITC. It supports the internalisation of small and medium-sized enterprises. And of course, we have a huge, our membership, we have a huge number of small and medium-sized enterprises. I've been lucky to attend several of the ITC conferences and learn firsthand of the work that they've been doing with our members and certainly with other women's organisations worldwide. I'm particularly interested in what they do with SheTrades and the greater opportunities for women entrepreneurs, and of course to encourage BBW members to register and connect and trade with women-owned businesses. The Global Compact. What's happening with BBW globally is that many clubs and federations now are actually joining the Global Compact as individuals. It allows them access to some wonderful conferences and workshops that I've actually attended myself. It has other benefits, but I recommend that you all go online and have a look at each one of these individually, because there's such a lot of work that they're doing with BBW as well. The BBW collaboration with the Global Summit of Women, I've included that because, of course, it's the premier business and economic forum for women globally. We've just experienced that in Bangkok, and I know that BBW Thailand were very involved in the host planning committee. We've been in partnership with Irene Natavadat for some 2 decades. And the last one that I'm going to mention briefly is the collaboration with Global Women for Water Partnership. I don't know how many of you know, but BBW International was a founding member of Women for Water, and so a voting member of the UN General Assembly in that forum. BBW members are on the Partnership Steering Committee, I think one from Brazil, and I'm not sure, I think it's Leisure is the other one. A unique partnership, united women in around 130 low to middle class countries. So today I'm going to focus more on BBW's collaboration with Project 5O. So what is Project 5O? And as I mentioned, there are many, many more organizations that we collaborate with. And as I said in my introduction, I've selected only a few to highlight. However, I've used this as a leader to what I consider to be a unique partnership of collaboration that BBW International has been involved with since 1975. What is Project 5O? It's a coalition of 5 international women's organizations. They provide funding for vocational training and employment skills for women in developing countries and countries in transition. And of course, they endeavor to alleviate poverty and advance the status of women. A reminder that the topic of this presentation is partnership with other women's network organization, and the theme of BBWI is also about cooperation. For me, Project 5O is one of the greatest examples of cooperation and partnership between women's networks, and I've worked with it for the last 2 decades. You see the logo that is on the screen at the moment. It's the BBW, it's the Project 5O logo, and it's 5 women's holding hands. I think it's a beautiful logo. When someone explained to me what it was about when I first started to be involved, I thought it was just a beautiful logo, one of the nicest I've ever seen. So there are 5 women's organizations: BBW, of course, the International Council of Women, the International Federation of University Women, Soroptimist, and Zonta. Zonta was a late, it came in after the Country of Women, but we now have, so you can see on the screen, we have the 5 organizations all leading into the Project 5O. So on the website, you can see the locations worldwide. And within the website, you can actually see all 134 projects and how each one of those and is involved with the organizations. For example, if I look down here at Calcutta, you can see that 3 of the organizations were involved. Today I read that in actual fact it was 5 of the organizations, but I'll come into that in a moment. So what is the objective of 5O? It's to use the skills and expertise of its members, of local participating organizations, and it provides training courses in income generating skills. So it's funded by 5O, includes vocation skills, literacy training, marketing, etc., etc. So that's the objective, is to create these training courses in developing countries. So how do we start a Project 5O project? So the individual projects are managed by a local committee, which has to include volunteers from at least 2 organizations. So if, for example, there was a project in Tanzania and it was a BBW club that was keen to start that, it would have to look for a partner from one of the other organizations. And that partner would have to be on the ground and work collaboratively with BBW. So I'm just on the screen at the moment is Calcutta. Calcutta was in fact the pilot project for BBW for Project 5.0, and all of the organizations were on the ground. So I'll just come back to that, because I want to explain what happened with Project 5.0 and Calcutta. So, as I said, Calcutta was a pilot program. And although all 5 partners had experienced various types of projects in their own organizations, 5.0 presented a new dimension. They needed to know how they could all work together and ensure the projects were managed and became self-sufficient. It was decided that a vocational training scheme in Calcutta would become the pilot program. All 5 had members, organizations locally on the ground in Calcutta. So they formed the local committee. It was a wonderful success and a model of how women's networks worldwide could work together, and continues today. In the meantime, funding was secured from UNESCO and various other sources from within the 5.0 membership, and 5.0 became a reality. The latest project to be approved by Project 5.0 was in Nigeria last year, in partnership with BBW Nigeria and ICW, the International Council of Women. There were 2 phases of funding: the literacy training, which was life skills, health, sanitation, literacy and numeracy, and the second phase was the interest-free loan. It was to 25 women, and they decided that rather than giving them a grant, it was better for them to give them an interest-free loan, because it would be paid back once the business is stabilized. So the project would be sustainable and the funds used to support more women. In the photograph there, you can see that the lady in the middle is the president of BBW Nigeria, is Yinka. On the right-hand side, we had copies of all of the bios of all of the participants in the program. And at the bottom here, the beneficiaries of all the recipients signed. That's typical of the kind of paperwork these projects were required to give Project 5.0 committee. And until the paperwork is quite extensive, and until they give that, the approval is not given by the presidents. The other project I wanted to mention that was quite a major project for BBW and Project 5.0 was in Argentina and Villa La Angostura and Angostura, sorry, in Patagonia. The purpose of that was to teach and maintain low-income workers, and there were courses given in all kinds of issues. Arlette Nayens, who was the president of BBW, worked tirelessly to make this project happen. And she was awarded the Women of the Year from 5.0 and the Gertrude Mangala Award, one of the most prestigious international awards from BBW International. It was her life's work building this center, and through her, and thanks to her, hundreds and hundreds of women were trained up. The bottom right-hand corner is a photograph of her shaking the hand of the mayor, and with her is Antoinette Roux. I I can remember stories of there being people with banners outside when they were there, complaining about using the building, etc. And but a bit of excitement for Antoinette. She often mentions how difficult that time was for her. Let me just right, here we are. The photograph here is of the nurses at the nursing school in La Paz, Mexico. Now, I know that many of you are familiar with this particular project. In the photograph, of course, we've got past President Nock in the center, and Yasmin on the left, and Dr. Sylvia Salazar on the right. I've been to the school many times. Sylvia Salazar also was awarded a prestigious BBW International Award for her work there at the school. She actually slept there many times when the building was being constructed. In 1986, the 5-0 approved the construction of the nursing home. It was an unusual 5-0 project, a non-typical project that was to have an enormous impact on the improved health resources of La Paz. Within 2 years of having approved it, they had raised enough money to start the building. And in 1988, President Chuluki Justo laid the foundation stone, and funds began to be raised worldwide. The amazing thing is that in 1992, the official opening was with 90 students. Now, when you think that the women's organizations collectively made this happen, I think it is a brilliant story, and one that should be repeated as often as you can. It's not just the nursing school, it's all the projects that BBW has been involved in with 5-0. The school was named after Dr. Sylvia Salazar. She dedicated her life to the school. The school is still functioning, and every year there are many graduates coming out of the school. And to date, there have been hundreds and hundreds of nurses graduated. I took in many occasions took funds that we had raised in Australia to Mexico for the sponsorship of the students. I took photographs of many of them and matched them up with recipients here. Pat had a wonderful student named Eva, who was an absolute delight, and she loved to tell everyone that she had a sponsor in La Paz. She was sponsoring a nurse. There is a website that I would commend to you. If you go onto the website, you will be able to read about all the projects that have come out of this collaboration with the 5 organizations in Project 5-0. This is the board of directors as they stand now, a mix of ICW and BBW. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner that we were meeting every year during the CSW. Of course, with COVID, there hasn't been any meetings. The president of 5-0 is rotated between the organizations. The sad thing is that over the last few years, 3 of the organizations have in fact pulled out of Project 5.0, but ICW and BBW is still very strong, and we're still looking to bring in other organizations. But I have to say that I've heard rumors that 2 of the organizations want to come back. So that's really a wonderful story that I hope that I can say, yes, it came to fruition. You can see that our president, Catherine Bossart, is one of the directors. Not only does Project 5.0 collaborate to run these amazing projects, but every year they go to CSW and they're very, very active there. Even though not all the organizations are together, we still have had meetings with the 5. I would be very happy to see that on an ongoing basis. We had a workshop that Sylvia attended at some point where the Project 5.0 booklet, I think, or book was I think released there. But you can see here that we had a workshop in 2015, and we spoke, each of the 5 organizations spoke. It was a wonderful, I think there were 100 people that turned up in the room. It was absolutely packed because the rooms in CSW for workshops are often very small. The most interesting thing for me is that the 5 organizations come together often to submit joint statements. In the beginning, it was all 5. Lately, it is sometimes 3 or 4 organizations submitting joint statements. But the power of having more than one signature on a document like the statement, the Commission on the Status of Women, is very, very powerful. And I have to say that that has worked very, very well in BBW's favor. We have presented the BBW, the Project 5.0 statement on more than one occasion. So how can you help? What can you do to help this situation? And for me, it's about talking about the benefit of collaboration between women's network organizations, because BBW and Project 5.0 is a wonderful example, of course, but there are other organizations out there that we can all be looking to collaborate with. It is so important because it's so difficult when you're on your own as an individual, but the strength when you are collective is enormous. You know, I heard a saying that women are like snowflakes. They're gentle until they get together and they can stop the traffic. And that's really what, for me, that's about what collaboration is. It's the power of being together. I'd encourage you to read the history and tell the story of Project 5.0 because it is a wonderful story. And of course, ask for donations because we really are needing money to be able to give to these projects that we have so many people wanting to fund these small projects. Most of them get between $7,000 and $10,000. You can see the kind of projects that they in these developing countries. $10,000 goes such a long way. The Project 5.0 history I've got with me now here. I've been reading it the last couple of days. Of course, sincere thanks to Sylvia, who has spent hours and hours of time and effort and dedication to writing this book. And there are things in there that even though I've been involved with 5O, I learned for the first time. It's a history of women who absolutely deserve to be remembered for posterity. The book traces the story of a very, very special cooperation over decades, forged by the leaders of the 5 largest and most influential women's organizations at the UN. At the First World Conference held in Mexico in 1975, the idea of the 5 women's organizations coming together was mooted by Beryl Nasher, who was a BBW International president. And so very proudly, we can all say that the idea of Project 5O was really a BBW International idea. And I can say very proudly, not only that, but she was also Australian. So I'm very, very proud of that. For me, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I think Sylvia might, that BBW and Project 5O is one of the greatest examples of cooperation and partnership between women's networks. And remember that the topic of this presentation today was, in fact, partnering with other women's network organizations. As I said, for me, 5O is one of the greatest examples of cooperation and partnership between women's networks. During the formation in 1975 or 86, in 95, when it was mooted and they came together, and in 86, during the formation, collectively, the 5 organizations had 75 million women in 75 countries. Can you imagine the power of that group of women if we had that today? And there's no reason why we can't. One person can do much, but people in unison can do more. And together, Project 5O, as an example, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. That was really a glorious presentation. And I'm going to open the floor now for discussion. First of all, though, Yasmin, I'd like to ask you if you would like to make any comments.
Well, it's thank you, Susan, for this wonderful presentation. It's, as you said, the best example how to make a difference united. And we were trying to find another organizations that wants to join Project 5O. And until today, I think we still are only 2 or 3. I really don't know at this point. But if you know an international organization that match with this goals, maybe you can support trying through BBW International, of course, to see if someday we can have again the 5 international organizations. This Project 5O is very close to my heart because the nursing school, I've been in 1985 in the presentation in New Zealand of this project for Mexico. And since then, I worked together with Professor Silvia Salazar and all the international presidents that visited this school. Of course, that it was, maybe you can see that it's a small support for each project, but this is the point that the rest has to be a very big effort of our organizations. So BPW International did 90% of the work, for example, in the BPW International 5.0 project. So, and there it is, the school, and I hope that will be forever. So thank you, Susan, for this wonderful.
Yes, thank you, Yasmin. Bessie, you're first in my queue, so please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Susan, for the presentation. Project 5.0 is very important for me. I've been very familiar with the projects we have had in Africa since I am the international treasurer for Project 5.0. I have been following the projects. But the only one I have visited in person is the nursery school in La Paz. And my favorite memory of it is I was visiting, my daughter was assigned to the embassy in Mexico, the US embassy in Mexico. I had an accident and I had to go to a hospital, to a clinic. And of course I was in a lot of pain. I had injured my elbow, but the nurses have, and the doctors have their name and where they are from. And one of the nurses was from the La Paz nursing school. So I introduced myself as a BPW member, and there I was, all crying for my pain, but they were hugging, and she was telling me about her studies in La Paz, and I'll never forget that, getting to meet one of the graduates from our nursing school in La Paz. That I just wanted to share with you that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bessie. Next, we have Marie Claude. Mary.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation, and also thank you, of course, to Suzanne for this presentation. I'm very interested, in fact, because as I wrote in the chat, I remember being in this workshop, dating back in 2015. But at the time, I knew, I was informed that already some organizations, so I don't know which is left, because also Yasmin said that she doesn't know which organization is still with us. But I am working closely with them at UNESCO, for sure. And they also, they co-signed also the statement for CSW, which was the case also this year. I also wanted to say that Lisha Whitmer is, of course, the advocacy lead and one of the founders too of Women for Water Partnership, and we work closely together at UNESCO. And also because I'm in the at UNESCO, and you know that the first mandate of UNESCO is education. How can I help? Because every year there are different calls for nominations for education prizes, which give a huge amount of money from some member states. And so there is the literacy prize, for example, or you also have the girls and women prize in education. So how can we communicate? Because this year again, there was no nomination. No project was found by BPW International. So I'm quite surprised, because I think we should pool calls and contribution. And also, I'm also a member of the collective consultation of NGOs Education 2030 Coordination Group. And we work together across the world. And I was also at the Transformation Education Summit in New York, and I have connections with many people, many politicians too, through what I'm doing at UNESCO. And where can we find all this information? So thank you very much. And also, where can we find the book? Thank you.
That's a very good question, Marie-Claude, because I know that they had some in London when the office was there. Sylvia would probably let us know, but I don't think we have any copies, Sylvia, do we? I have two.
I have two, but I gave them all to the president, UK president at the time, to look after, and I think they were all sold. But I thought at one time that we had put some of these things on the electronically on the
Yeah, it was
website.
digitized. I thought it was digitized too.
Yeah. I not did that, I think.
The problem is we did have a page on the website that had all the books, 42 seconds, etc., and they were in fact digitized, but I don't know what's happened to that.
Well, I can say to you that they were digitized, but I have the copyright. The copyright is still in my name. So even if it was produced by the 5 organizations, but, I have the right to say
I think we're selling them.
Happens to the book. So I'll do some investigation if you like.
Yes, yes. I think we were selling them for $25. Is that right, Sylvia?
I can't remember how much they were, but I was going to. Sorry, am I allowed to speak? My piece now, Anne? Yeah, carry on with
you
that.
are next, Sylvia, so we'll flow right in.
All right, okay. Well, I thought I'd point out to you, it was quite interesting that the book was actually, we got some funding for the book originally when we did it, because as I said to you, it was produced for the Copenhagen conference, and the Danish International Development Assistance, DANIDA, actually gave us some funding for it. And although Beryl Nasher had started the idea, she worked very closely with the next president, who was Mildred Head, and Mildred Head was the first convener. And so we took that up very solidly in UK. And I can remember Molly McLaren, one of our very, very keen international members, setting up the fundraising for it. And we had a actual model of the La Paz Nursing School as our inspiration for that, and we raised quite a lot of money. We made a project in the UK, so it's always been very close to the UK Federation as well.
Yes, and here in Australia too, Sylvia, we're still raising money for scholarships, I have to say. But I don't, Marie-Claude, I just answer your questions about how do you get people to apply? Well, I can tell you that my experience is I have applied twice on behalf of Nepal when I was there in Kathmandu, because it's the sheer size of the information that they need in these application forms. It's beyond someone that's non-English speaking. And the other way we have had it is that we all promote it when we were speaking at different conferences. But yes, it's developing countries, and to find 2 of the organizations on the ground that can manage a project is not easy now. Remember that the first project was in Calcutta, and all 5 of the organizations were on the ground because we didn't have a problem then with women's organizations dissipating as we have now. So I don't know, I can't really help you other than to, push for them to be through international to be applying. You just have to be persistent, I suppose, Marie-Claude. It's terrible, isn't it? You've got this money and no one wants it. It's just awful.
Okay, thanks to each of you. I'm going to have to go on because we have only a few more minutes and more people waiting. So we'll cycle back if we can. Joe, tell us about collaboration among women's organizations in UK for another good example.
Oh, hello. We have a 6O organisation here. We don't have Zonta International as part of ours. The largest organisation is the Women's Institute. And we meet on a quarterly basis and we share best practice. A good example of that at the moment is banking. Organisations such as ourselves that aren't charities have found it difficult to get the national banks to accept us without punitive charges. So we've been working together to find out which is the best banking system for an organisation like ours, the 6O. And the project we're working on at the moment is Equal Pay Day. And we're looking at doing flash mobs in the various cities because it's an easier way of bringing attention to this subject. And in the UK, we have had new legislation on protests. And at the moment, flash mobs aren't included. So as a group of 6O, we've decided to go along with whether it's a homemade rattle, a drum or tambourine, wearing red in various cities as the 6 organisations. I hope that's some good examples, Anne.
Thanks very much, Jo. And flash mob is an excellent idea for all the extroverts. Introverts such as myself will be behind the scenes writing to the legislators. So both are needed.
I can see you with a shaker. I really can.
No, you really can't. It's your imagination. So great work. And one of the things you mentioned, Jo, I think is worth repeating. 5O is this excellent example of how to have an impact around the world and the strength in numbers. And that is really critical to everything that we do. We may not be a charity, but we're all about empowering women, for example, and changing the status of women. And so it all comes together. But you mentioned a frequent buzzword or buzz phrase, I suppose, which is best practices and sharing of that. And this is another, I think, direct benefit to the organization and its members of this kind of collaboration, that we have the chance then to learn from each other. And it also cements the fact that we're not in competition. We're actually wanting the same or similar goals. It depends on which organizations we're talking about, but certainly related goals. And so we can learn quite a lot from each other. So this is, I think, a direct benefit to ourselves in each case. Susan, did you have other comments you wanted to add before we call this to a close in a few minutes?
Well, I don't know if anyone here in this presentation is a member of one of the other organizations, but if they are, or if you know people, give them a little push, because there's rumors going around that they would like to rejoin because their numbers are failing, and the benefit, of course, of being part of a much larger group. I mean, can you believe 7 million women? Unbelievable for me, unbelievable. So yeah, we tried Girl Guides, we tried women lawyers internationally. We have tried, and we're not short of funds, I have to say. I think there's about 100,000 in the bank at the moment, Bessie, somewhere around that figure. Maybe not, maybe lower. She's our treasurer.
It's under 100,000. I believe we have like 79,000 or something like that.
Okay, still substantial when you think that we only give $10,000 per project. So in your travels, Adeniki, in your travels, if you find anyone that in Africa, that's where the 2 women's organizations are, ICW, International Council of Women, have many hats. As you know, they have many organizations that belong to ICW. Please encourage people to contact us. Contact BBW International.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How are
great.
you, Adeniki? You look gorgeous in your photograph.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Susan. Before we bring this to a close, I wanted to just mention something that, well, is both sad and happy, might encourage us further. It struck me this morning in news from my home country. Many of you know I'm from US, from New York, and in fact, I've lived outside of my country for nearly 20 years now. but it's in the news this morning for the first time ever. And now let me rephrase this. In 1848 in Seneca Falls was the first women's rights convention in the world, as I think you all know. And yesterday, New York State, which is where Seneca Falls is located, for the first time ever elected a female governor. It's only 174 years later, 174 years, and that's just state level, which is conceivably easier than a national level. So it strikes me that that's good news, but we have a lot of work still to do.
BBW New Zealand sent news, I don't know if you read it, that they now have more women in Parliament in New Zealand than they have men.
Well, New Zealand and of course, Iceland lead the way in that and many other related issues. And surprisingly, Rwanda. Rwanda has had more women than men by a margin, close to 70% women for about 6 or 7 years, at least now, maybe 10 years. But most others, yeah, far behind. Okay, so we keep fighting the good fight. Alida, I'll give you a minute so that we can close soon. Go ahead.
Yes, best wishes to everybody. Good day. I wanted to say that Croatia has only one club, VPW Pula, Croatia. So we are very much closely cooperating with other club of women entrepreneurs which are in Croatia, and we are very happy to that. We very often place this information on the Facebook. It's about 2 or 3 clubs in Croatia that cooperate with us. So that was what I wanted to share with you.
Great. Thank you, Alida. Another great example of networking and partnering with other women's organizations. Wonderful. Thank you, dear Susan, for an incredible presentation. We've been trying to get this one on here for quite a while, as you know, and so we're very happy to be able to do it now. And for all this good work that's been done for so long through this particular project, and for the general concept of partnering with other women's organizations, both to benefit the world of women and to benefit our own organizations as well. We thank you all for being here today, and for those who directly participated in the discussion and contributed your experiences and your knowledge and your history of this, in especially Sylvia's case and Yasmin's case, your history also with this project, Bessie too. Thanks to everyone for everything that you contribute every day for our organization and for the world of women. Bye for now, and we hope to see you again next month.